Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today we're taking a close look into the upcoming earnings report for Absci Corp. Our mission here, as always, is to really pull out all the essential knowledge from the pre-earnings analysis, give you a shortcut to being, well, thoroughly informed. And hey, if you find value in our insights, if you enjoy this analysis, please take a moment to subscribe, like us, leave a comment. Your support means a lot. You could also buy us a coffee if you'd like to support the show. And definitely, if there's a specific company you want us to look into for a future analysis, please leave that in the comments below. All right, let's unpack this. We're looking into Absci Corp, a company positioned right at that pretty compelling intersection of biotech and generative AI. First things first, the crucial detail. When is this report actually coming out?
Right. So Absci is set to release earnings on August 12th, 2025. That's going to be after the market closes.
Okay, after the close on the 12th and the call.
Yeah. The earnings conference call is scheduled for 4:30 p.m. Eastern time that same day, so folks can tune in for management's comments.
Got it. Now, what are the analysts expecting? What are the numbers?
The consensus view is looking for revenue around $1.39 million.
Okay.
And for earnings per share, the EPS, that's expected to be a loss of 19 cents.
Minus 19 cents per share. And is there any whisper number this time? Sometimes those pop up.
Yeah, good question. Doesn't seem like it. There isn't really a credible whisper number circulating publicly for this quarter,
Okay.
We're mostly working off that official consensus.
And what about guidance from the company itself? Did they give any specific financial targets?
No, Absci management hasn't provided explicit financial guidance for this period, but looking back, last quarter they did manage to beat the estimates.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, EPS came in at negative $0.21. The expectation was slightly worse, negative $0.22.
Okay, the small beat there.
And revenue also beat. It was $1.18 million versus the $1.07 million analysts expected. That's a great setup. And what's truly insightful here, I think, is that while these numbers, $1.39 million revenue, negative 19 cents EPS, they might seem quite small, right? Especially in absolute terms.
Yeah, tiny for a public company.
Exactly. But for Absci Corp, they're actually incredibly significant. This is a company that's, heavily invested in foundational R&D for drug discovery.
Right.
So these numbers, they're less about immediate profit and much more about the trajectory and, importantly, the burn rate.
Burn rate, how fast they're spending their cash.
Precisely. For a company like Absci, hitting, or like you saw last quarter, beating these modest estimates, it signals to the market they're managing their cash well while still doing that crucial R&D. It's about discipline.
That makes perfect sense. So discipline and trajectory, not big profits yet.
Okay, looking beyond just this upcoming report then, how has Absci performed historically? What's their track record around earnings?
Well, it's a fascinating pattern, actually. Over the last 4 quarters, Absci has pretty consistently delivered what you'd call small beats. Small beats.
Yeah, like Q1 2025, just mentioned, they beat by 1 cent on EPS, negative $0.21 versus negative $0.22 expected.
Okay.
And that trend, these sort of modest beats, usually by just a penny or two on EPS, it's been quite consistent through Q4 2024 and Q3, Q2 as well.
So fairly predictable in a way. Meeting or slightly exceeding low expectations.
You could say that. It suggests maybe analysts are being very cautious, or perhaps it just reflects the difficulty of forecasting for a pre-commercial company like this.
And how does the market react? Do these small, consistent beats move the stock much?
Well, that's the interesting part. The price movements post-earnings have actually been quite muted.
Really?
Yeah. For Q1 2025, for instance, the stock was down about 1.3% the day after the report.
Down. Even after a beat.
Yep. And in the quarters before that, there was maybe some minor volatility right after the release, but often that initial move kind of reversed itself pretty quickly.
Huh. So the market isn't really rewarding these small beats.
It seems not. It suggests these results are largely priced in, or maybe investors are just waiting, looking for something much more substantial to really shift their view on the company.
Right. Something beyond just nicking the estimates.
Yeah.
So what about the underlying trends? Key metrics like revenue, profitability. How are those looking?
Good question. Revenue has been gradually increasing, but like we said, the absolute levels are still modest. As for EPS, still negative, which, again, is totally expected for a company deep in R&D like Absci.
Sure.
But they have been consistently narrowing those losses slightly better than expected, which might hint at some cost control or maybe early collaboration revenue coming in a bit better.
Okay, so slight improvement within the losses. What about operating metrics? Margins, returns?
Yeah, those really reflect the ongoing investment. The net margin is still significantly negative. They're spending much more than they bring in, which is standard for the stage.
Right.
And the return on equity, last reported, was deeply negative, around minus 54%.
Wow. Okay.
Which again just highlights that huge R&D investment and very low commercial revenues right now. It's all about building for the future.
So connecting this back,
Yeah.
this pattern of small beats, persistent losses, negative operating metrics,
Sure.
it really sounds like the market is just factoring in this very early stage. What does that imply for investors thinking longer term?
Exactly. It creates this kind of interesting dynamic, doesn't it? The market basically has low expectations for the near-term financials.
Yeah.
Which means the stock isn't getting big rewards for these small wins. But the flip side is it could potentially lead to an outsized reaction if there is a significant positive surprise.
Ah, okay. Especially on something beyond the numbers.
Precisely, like positive pipeline progress or news about a partnership, something that validates the core science and future potential, because expectations on the current financials are already pretty low.
Got it. Okay, so beyond those numbers then, what else has been going on? Any significant news or broader trends affecting Absci this past quarter?
Well, in terms of company-specific news, it's been relatively quiet this past quarter. No major product launches announced, no big partnership deals reported publicly. The company's clearly kept its focus on using that generative AI platform for designing therapeutics. We should definitely expect and listen closely for updates on their clinical stage pipeline during the earnings call. That's key.
Right, the pipeline updates.
Yeah.
And what about the bigger picture? The biotech sector overall and that generative AI angle specifically. How are things looking there?
Well, the biotech sector generally, it remains pretty sensitive to macro factors, right? Interest rates, funding availability, that always plays a role.
Sure, higher rates make borrowing tougher, potentially make riskier stocks less attractive.
Exactly. But this is where Absci's focus on generative AI could be a real differentiator.
How so?
Because while the overall funding environment for many small pre-revenue biotechs is still quite tight.
Yeah, it's tough out there for raising cash.
It is. But AI-driven platforms like Absci's are still attracting significant investor interest. There's just so much excitement around the potential for AI to revolutionize drug discovery, speed it up, lower costs, increase success rates.
That makes sense. The AI buzz is definitely strong. Even if the funding is tight elsewhere, AI gets attention.
It does. It's seen as potentially transformative, so it draws interest even when capital is generally scarce for early-stage biotech.
But that raises the question, right? How long can potential carry a stock without more concrete milestones? Has recent analyst commentary reflected this dynamic at all?
That's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's exactly what investors will be listening for on that call signs of potential turning into tangible progress. As for the analysts, there haven't been any significant upgrades or downgrades reported for Absci this quarter. The consensus views seem pretty cautious, which lines up with the negative EPS expectation and minimal revenue growth we talked about. And we haven't seen any major shifts in price targets either. So, yeah, it reinforces that kind of wait-and-see mode the market seems to be in.
Okay, wait and see. So, putting it all together, what does this mean for the stock itself around earnings? Let's talk technicals. How's the price been acting?
Yeah, looking at the chart, the pre-earnings price action, the stock's been trading near $2.95.
Okay.
And that's actually below its 200-day moving average, which sits around $3.19.
Below the 200-day. Usually seen as a bit bearish, or at least neutral, long-term?
Generally, yeah. And over the past week or so, the price has mostly just drifted sideways. There hasn't been any significant run-up into the report.
Which suggests expectations are pretty muted, right? No one's betting big on a huge beat beforehand.
Seems that way. Muted expectations heading into the announcement itself.
So what are the key price levels people should watch? Support, resistance.
Okay, for support, the immediate zone looks to be around $2.85 to $2.90. Those are recent lows. If it were to break below that, you might worry about a faster move down toward the 52-week low, which is way down at $2.01.
Oof, okay. And on the upside, if there's good news.
Resistance is likely around $3.20 and $3.30. That area is near that 200-day average we mentioned, and it also lines up with some recent swing highs.
So getting above $3.30 would be a positive technical sign.
Definitely. It would clear some near-term hurdles.
And finally, the options market. What are traders betting on in terms of the size of the move? What's the implied volatility telling us?
Right. So looking at options pricing, things like straddles and strangles, it suggests traders are expecting a potential move either up or down of about plus or minus 12% to 15% after earnings.
12 to 15%. Is that high or low for a biotech stock?
It's moderately elevated,
Um,
but honestly not extreme for this sector. Biotech can see much bigger swings, especially around clinical data.
okay.
So this moderate implied volatility, combined with that sideways price action we talked about, it really suggests the market is pricing in a sort of expected level of uncertainty.
Not bracing for a massive shock, maybe.
Seems like it. More of a wait and see what management says, rather than anticipating a huge game-changing surprise in either direction.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the market sentiment.
Yeah.
Now let's play out some scenarios. What would a really bullish report look like for Absci? What could actually make the stock jump significantly?
Right, the bullish case. You'd want to see that classic beat and raise. So the EPS loss would need to be quite a bit narrower than forecast, maybe closer to negative 17 cents or even better.
Mm-hmm.
And revenues surprising nicely above, say, $1.5 million. But honestly, for Absci, the bigger driver would be the pipeline news.
Pipeline again. What specifically?
Exceptionally positive updates. Things like really strong new preclinical data, maybe announcing they've filed an IND, that's the application to start human trials, or initiating a new clinical trial phase.
Okay.
And the real kicker, announcing a major new strategic partnership with a big pharma company. Or hitting some kind of commercial milestone, even an early one, that could really ignite the stock.
Yeah, partnership would be huge validation.
Absolutely. And maybe some signs of margin stabilization wouldn't hurt either.
Okay, that's the dream scenario.
Yeah.
What about the bearish side? What are the red flags that could cause a sell-off?
Well, obviously, missing on both EPS and revenue would be bad. So EPS worse than negative 21 cents, revenue below $1.3 million.
Right.
But again, for a company like this, the bigger worries might be elsewhere. Continued heavy cash burn without a clear path forward.
Running out of money faster than expected.
Exactly, or just silence.
Yeah.
A complete absence of any new partnership news or commercial updates, that would be concerning. And crucially, any negative clinical update. Unexpected side effects, delays in a key drug program that could hit the stock hard because clinical progress is everything in biotech.
Makes sense.
Oh, and any guidance suggesting slower development timelines or maybe hints of trouble raising future funds, that would definitely weigh on the stock.
So when we boil it all down, beyond the headline numbers,
Yeah.
what's the single most critical thing for listeners to focus on in this report?
It really comes back to those pipeline progress updates. That's the absolute key metric.
More than EPS, more than revenue.
For Absci at this stage, yes. Any news on partnerships, hitting clinical milestones like an IND filing or moving into a new trial phase, or even giving some real numbers around early commercial traction.
Yeah.
That stuff carries far more weight right now.
Okay.
It validates the technology. It paints the picture for long-term growth. That's where investors should look for the real signals.
Got it. Pipeline, pipeline, pipeline. Okay, bringing it all together then, what's our overall leaning heading into this Absci report? And what are some considerations for listeners?
Our overall leaning is, frankly, pretty neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah, the risk-reward seems quite balanced. Analysts' expectations are muted. There's no huge sector tailwind right now. But there is always that potential upside if the pipeline news really surprises.
Okay, so on a confidence scale, say 1 to 10.
I'd put it right in the middle, a 5 out of 10.
A 5.
Well, the rationale is, they have that history of small beats, which is good. But without obvious major catalysts right now, and with those ongoing losses, the odds of a truly big surprise move feel pretty even. Sentiment isn't strongly bullish or bearish.
That neutrality makes sense.
Yeah.
So for our listeners thinking about what to do, any practical strategy considerations?
Sure. Look, for more risk-averse investors, maybe consider sitting this one out. Or just having minimal exposure through the report itself. Biotech earnings can be volatile.
Right.
For those with a higher risk tolerance, you might look at options, maybe a straddle or a strangle like we talked about. If you think that 12-15% implied move is likely, those strategies could potentially capture it without betting on direction.
Yeah, getting on the size of the move, not the direction.
Exactly. And then for the fundamental long-term investors, the advice is really consistent. Focus on those pipeline signals. Don't get too hung up on this quarter's EPS number.
Look beyond the quarter.
Yeah. For Absci, the real story is about validating that AI platform and bringing drugs forward over years, not just hitting a quarterly number.
That's a great summary of the different approaches.
And this really raises an important question for you, the listener, right? Whatever your style, Understanding these unique drivers for a company like Absci is just crucial. It's not only about the numbers on the page, it's about the innovation underneath, its progress, and that long path to actually getting products to market. That's where the true value story lies for these kinds of, potentially groundbreaking companies.
That's perfectly put. As we wrap up this analysis, maybe consider this. In this world of high-growth, innovative companies like Absci Corp, is a beat really just about hitting the numbers? Or is it more about those whispers of breakthroughs, the ones that could reshape an entire industry? Thank you so much for joining us for this look into Absci. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time on Investing Talk Podcast.